Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking about visits, prenatal visits. I'm going to be comparing home visits versus hospital visits. I started out with my first pregnancy. I started out going to the traditional method, I guess you would call it traditional, going to the hospital or OBGYN clinics for my prenatal checkups, and then I switched to home birth because I found a midwife. So I'm going to be comparing the two. I will also be giving some insight on the experience from a nursing perspective because I did work in that area as a nurse for a little while, so I can give you a little insight from being a actual client and also working as a nurse giving the care. So I will say that I do like home birth better than hospital. It's more comfortable, it is more convenient, and I just feel more comfortable in my home, if that makes sense. And I know this may sound weird, but I hate hospitals. I know I'm a nurse, but I absolutely hate hospitals and all the protocols and all the busyness of it. Okay? So first I'm going to talk about the visits just in general. So when I went to my visits at the OBGYN clinic, every time I went, I got a different nurse practitioner or doctor to come see me. So there was no consistency in the person I was talking to. So I could have told the other person something that I thought was really important, and hopefully they document it, and then the next person that I see hopefully reads the chart and remembers and maybe checks up on it. That probably won't happen all that often. So it's like inconsistency in visit care. That may not be a big deal for some people, but after having both experiences, it does make a difference. Another thing about the visits is they're quick. Like every time I went for a prenatal visit, it was like 5 minutes, basically. I'm in and out, like I'm a number. So the routine was, you sit in the waiting room for umpteen hours, and then you finally get called back. You get called back, and then the tech person takes your vitals, weighs you, you pee in a cup, and then you go to a different waiting room or you go back out to your initial waiting room. Wait a little bit while longer, you go to your exam room. The doctor comes in, or the nurse practitioner comes in, asks you how you're doing, any, the general question, any concerns, anything we need to know about, blah, 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 blah. And then they listen to the baby, find the heartbeat, and then that's pretty much it, unless you have some concerns. And if you do have concerns, they aren't well heard, in my opinion, in my experience, as the client, not as, the nurse. So as the client, I experienced with my first pregnancy a lot of morning sickness. And it was more so all day, everyday sickness, to where I couldn't keep really anything down. And the things they were giving me, it wasn't working. So the only thing that I got when I told them that was, oh, it's normal, and try to take in more water and take in more food that contains a high volume of water. Oh, okay, thank you. That didn't work because they really didn't listen to me, because if they would listen, they would have knew that I was having trouble even holding liquids down. Like, we're not going to get into my first pregnancy troubles, but it was a lack of lack of listening and communication with that whole office visit, because they were basically trying to get me in and out every time I went. So the visits were impersonable. So I'm going to compare that to my home visits. My home visits, I'm at the house. I don't have to drive to the location. I don't have to wake up extra early to get ready to go to the appointment. I don't have to drive and, sit in traffic to get to the appointment. I don't have to wait an extended period of time in the waiting room on my appointment. And then my visits are generally in about 45 minutes. Mine are probably less than most because I don't talk much. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure my visits are shorter than normal, but you can get as much time as you need, pretty much like an hour, compared to 5 minutes. And the visits at home are more comfortable. Like all of my visits pretty much at home, I'm in a onesie. I'm in my PJs, and I'm comfortable. And then when I express a concern, I get active listening. I get a better response from my midwife. And not only that, I see the same person every time. It's not like, oh, another person's going to pop up at my house. I'm seeing the same person consistently. And not only that, if I do have a concern or if I do express like I'm having nausea or something like that, they give me some options, things to try, and then they follow up. They will text me or call me and say, hey, did that help? Or, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. And if things go not how they wanted to, they come back and they in person to see how you're doing and see what they can do to fix the problem. Okay, so enough about the visits. The next thing I want to talk about is money, the amount you spend. I know certain insurances cover all of your prenatal care and stuff like that. And then I guess some of them cover your whole birth and then your postpartum. I didn't go through with the whole birth at the hospital and then postpartum at the hospital because I had transitioned to home by the time that part was needed. So my prenatal visits, the actual visits, were covered by my insurance when I went to the OBGYN clinics. And then my lab work and stuff like that was extra that I had to pay what my insurance didn't cover. And then after talking to a friend who, she pretty much went to the same clinic and delivered at the hospital that I would have delivered at, and et cetera, et cetera. I think she told me that the total cost was like $20,000 to $30,000, I believe. And then with insurance, she had to pay like 10 something or maybe under $10,000. I'm not sure of the actual total. She didn't tell me like the exact total, but that I knew she was still making payments on it and stuff. So with home birth, certain insurance do cover home birth, so that is still an option to have your insurance cover it. But if you don't have insurance that covers home birth and you really want to do it and you're a good candidate for home birth, then the midwife, hopefully, most of them that I have interviewed and talked to, will develop a payment plan that works with you so you can pay what you can to still get this experience that you want. They're willing to work with you. And then not only that, they have payment plans, insurance can cover, and sometimes they do pro bono. If they know your situation and stuff like that, some of them will still help you out. They get it covered some kind of way, so they're more willing to work with you because they know how important that experience is or can be for a person. So but if you don't have insurance at all, the out-of-pocket no insurance price, the highest I've seen is like $3,800 for everything, for all your prenatal visits, the actual birth, and all of your postpartum visits. So that covers everything. There's no, surprise here, surprise there. Because with insurance, they'll send you a bill in the mail and you like, I thought this was covered, So it includes like everything. Let's see what else can I tell you about the money portion? I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. What else? Oh, I know this may not be a big deal either for certain people, but during your prenatal care, they're going to ask you if you want certain tests done and if you want certain shots and stuff like that. So, for instance, if you need to get the Rogram shot, clinics, most of their policy is to give it, I think like 20 weeks, something like that, and then again after you give birth. So that's 2 shots. And then what's another one? Oh, your glucose test is another thing you'll have to do. And if you go to a OBGYN clinic, your glucose test is going to be that nasty little bottle of whatever concoction they came up with. Home birth or home visits, your glucose test can be a variety of things like that will yield the same results. For instance, the clinic, like I said, gives you a little bottle of something, syrup. I'm not sure what's all in it. So, yeah, you don't know the ingredients. While at home, you can drink a cup of OJ and a banana, and then they test they take your blood. So, it's not as treacherous, I guess. It's more convenient. It's easier. It's not a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a something that you have to, how you feel anxious before you do something because you're not sure what to expect. You know what to expect, And another thing about home birth or home visits, you know what you're getting. You know what's going to happen at each appointment. They lay it out. They tell you, okay, next time we meet, we're going to be doing da-da-da-da-da. While your prenatal is like, okay, yeah, they're going to tell you next time we come, maybe it's time for glucose check. But they don't really lay out what that entails, what has to happen. Home visit, they give you more detail on what's going to happen so there's no surprises. And they do this because they want you as the client to do some research. If they say they're going to do this, maybe they want you to look it up. If you find something like, hey, I don't really think this is what I want to do, or I don't understand why you're doing this or how you're doing it. They will tell you, they will explain to you, give you the reasons why, and maybe give you some evidence-based practice, which is what everybody's big on in the hospital, of why they're doing what they're doing. You won't get that from a doctor or at the clinic. They are going to be like, why are you asking questions, pretty much? You doing it because we're telling you to do it. So the communication and the knowledge is there. They want you to be more informed and well equipped and just have the knowledge of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Another thing I want to say is at the hospital and in clinics, they are quick to give you have a problem. Like when I was nauseous, they are quick to say, oh, would you like us to prescribe you some Zofran or some Phenergan or something, a pill, to take? And I'm like, I'm not a big pill person. I would rather have something that I can do just natural, because a lot of the things they say are okay for your baby and stuff like that may not be. So I'd rather have more options. If I have to take a pill, if that's my last resort, then I have to do it. But I think everybody would rather have options of things to do instead of this is your only option kind of thing. And you get that with home birth. For instance, I experienced having a UTI when I was pregnant. And the midwife already knew my personality, how I was. I'm like, I'm not up for pills and, medicine, period, And she was like, I know you don't want to do antibiotics, so here are some other options, unless you want me to go ahead and give you the antibiotic. I'm like, no. If you watch the news and all this crazy stuff, antibiotics are in everything, and resist, blah, 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 blah. Another story, another time. So there was a natural remedy or other option that I had that was simple, and it took care of the problem. You know what I'm saying? So I like the fact that I had an option that was even a healthy option versus taking something that I don't know what's going to be the side effects, or whatever. So I would say that home birth, you get more a holistic approach, and you don't get pressure into doing something that you do not want to do. So like that, for instance, a doctor is not going to suggest that you do the remedy that I did. They may not even know about it. They may not even know that it works. So they're going to give you a prescription for an antibiotic. They're going to just basically say, hey, you have a UTI. We're going to prescribe this. Go pick it up. Take it till it's done. And we'll recheck you when you come back. They're not going to say blah, 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 blah. They're basically bullying you or pressuring you into doing something because you're not informed. You don't have the knowledge of anything else. And I know bully is kind of a strong word, but it's essentially what's happening because they don't know anything else. They're taught one thing: give a pill, fix the problem. So I feel like you're not pressured as much into doing something that you don't feel comfortable doing with home birth. Because if you say, hey, I don't want to do this, then they're going to say, okay, these are your blah, 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 blah. These are the consequences or whatever of not doing it and stuff like that. You have options. They explain things to you to make sure that what you're doing, you're making a well-informed decision. And in a hospital, I say that it's bullying and pressure because a pregnant mama is going to do what, if it's something that she thinks is going to harm her child, she's going to do it. If you tell her this is it, she's going to do it. So that's what I mean by pressure. So you have other options when it comes to home birth because they are well equipped. They don't just know pill fix the problem. And a lot of people wonder if it's safe, if home birth is safe. Yeah. If you think how I think, when you're in a hospital, you don't see the doctor until the baby is basically out. The nurses do everything up until then. So I don't understand what's the difference in that and being at home. You still have a person who is trained in this field who most of the time comes from a hospital setting doing the same exact thing to take care of you. They can do your circumcision if you decide to do a circumcision on your child at home. They can do that at home. If you get a tear, they can stitch you up at home. And they are trained. They know what they're capable of. They're not going to put you and your baby at risk. So if something starts to go south when you're giving birth, they're going to take you to the hospital. And they even give you the option to go ahead and meet with people in the hospital who would take over your care just in case you do have to get rushed to the hospital. So it's not like you just left there and to die. It's not like that at all. Let's see what else I can tell you. You don't have to worry about babysitters if you have other kids. The kids can be right there during the visit. And I asked my husband, I was like, what did you like about the home birth visits versus the hospital visits? And pretty much what he said was, you have to get ready to go there. You have to do the drive and then you have to pay for parking. Man answers. So, yeah, it's definitely more convenient. Trying to think of what else I'm missing. I wrote down a list. So, I think I pretty much covered everything. I would, like I said, I already don't have a love relationship for the hospital. Anyway, so of course my option is to go with home birth. It is a great experience. You have more support than you would ever have with the million people that would be in your hospital room at the hospital. It is more personable. It is more convenient. It's like if your best friend became your doctor in a sense, because you can talk to them on a personal level. They talk to you. You develop a relationship is what I'm saying with the midwife that you choose. That's why you interview them. You ask them questions, because me coming from a hospital, dealing with the baby part, I was used to doing stuff. So when I interviewed them for the first time, I was like, do y'all put the eye ointment in the baby eye? When I deliver, do y'all stitch up if I tear? Do y'all give them the Hep B shot or yada, yada, yada? Because that's what I had to do in the hospital. I had to follow a list of protocols unless the parent denied them, which most of the time they didn't. So I had this list of things that I was used to doing for a baby, a newborn baby, and the mom. And now I was asking them this, and they were like, do you know why you give the eye ointment? And so that was their response to me. And I was like, yeah. And then she went into depth and gave me evidence-based practice and research to look at myself to make an informed decision to say, to why I was doing what I was doing as a nurse, and to see if I really wanted to do that for my child. And at the end of the day, I was like, oh, I don't need to put eye ointment in my baby's eyes, stuff like that. Not saying that you may not need to. Like I said, you would need to do research and see why you're doing it, why they do what they do. So it's like simple things, because the eye ointment, you see it on every baby picture pretty much if they post it on Facebook, and you just don't think anything about it because it's common. You see it all the time, so you think, oh, it's nothing wrong with this. It's what has to be done, when that's not always the case. So it's better to make a informed decision. Even if you still opt to do it, make it informed. Make it to where you know why you're doing what you're doing. And you get all of this with home birth or home visits versus not, doing the hospital thing. So that's my little, I guess, tidbit on comparing the two. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions of something I didn't cover, let me know. I would be happy to answer your questions. Another thing. The reason I like home birth is because you get to do water birth. You get to do positions that you feel comfortable in. You get to eat. If you feel hungry during labor, you get to eat. They don't most of the time let you do that in the hospital. I know that was a little much, but they don't. They like, you can't eat nothing. And I'm like, you actually laboring, you working, so you gonna be hungry. Anyway. So it's like a lot of things that I guess come to my mind when you actually think about the process. So yeah, consider it. Do your research. Have any questions, let me know. If you're in Georgia, I can refer you to some midwives. I can, tell you how to find one and stuff like that if you need help. So yeah, hope this video was helpful. Like I said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I do respond to them. And like I said, hope it was helpful. Hope it helps you make some decisions or even do more research or even consider it, if you can. Anyway, talk to you guys later.